Brother Ron, and welcome to We All Be News Radio and TV, the news-free Dixie for the 21st century.
You know, I was out, I grew up in L.A. I saw this stuff developing. I was out there for 15 years during this show, but you don't see as much gayness walking around on the street unless you're in L.A. and you're in what they call the Boys Club area, which is a certain stretch of Santa Monica Boulevard. There's a main street, so people often have to pass down that street, but other than there, you don't see that much gay in 2 or 3 or 4 months, unless maybe you're in D.C. or Atlanta. And D.C. has gotten worse than Atlanta in that respect. I mean, it's their right to do what they want to do in their bedrooms, but it's just kind of crazy to have sex practices defining a new class of people entitled to certain protections, not to practice it, since you can't have sex out in public, but to protect basically a philosophical thing. See, people ought to read stuff like 1984 by Orwell or Animal Farm by Orwell. And in Animal Farm, which was written 65 years ago, they've got a parallel to what's happening with this LGBT thing. It's like all of the animals in the barnyard are equal, except it develops that the pigs wind up being more equal than anything else. And that's kind of like them. They seem to have this impression that nobody is supposed to criticize anything they do or anything they want. And unfortunately, between them and the feminists, they have co-opted the methodology of the German Nazis. It used to be that the far left was the protector of individual rights and free speech. But nowadays, what is the far left has gotten extremely oppressive and tries to basically chill the exercise of free speech by anybody but themselves. And they have the media telling tales about how widespread and how accepted they are, which they're not. But propaganda that you get from the media, which is based on the Nazi model, tell a lie one time, it's a lie, tell it 1,000 times, it becomes the truth. Tell a lie long enough and loud enough, and you can get everybody to believe it, anybody to believe it, and their lie told long and loud by the media, like in the movie Avengers Endgame, is that everybody's accepted that, and they haven't. And it's one thing about what somebody does in the privacy of their bedroom, that's their business, but when you want to bring it into somebody else's living room, that's something else again. But enough on that. That's just the ongoing thing that is the hidden, I guess it's pink dress bunny rabbit in the room in politics these days. Too many of the people that are running for high office are involved, even if they aren't out of the closet. You know, they're in the closet and they're down low. So, like, for example, when you had that government shutdown, while all that confusion was going on quietly behind the scenes in many committee meetings, you had, guess what? A lot of business being conducted by both parties to further the gay agenda, which they did quietly. Nobody paying attention to that, but people paying attention to the government shutdown. So, California's gotten bad. They have a thing out there about sex education now, starting in the 3rd grade. It's subjects of how, if a girl wants to go deal with trying to be a lesbian, how to give cunnilingus appropriately. And if it's a boy, if he's contemplating accepting somebody's offer, what lubricants he should use for sodomy, and how to get sex toys and what they do, which is you're teaching this to elementary and junior high school kids. And if your parents don't allow it, how you can use cucumbers or bananas to substitute. I mean, that's what they're doing with this curriculum. It's gotten, wait a minute, something's wrong here. And then they got a thing where they're claiming, like Orange County, which is now very far to the left, but used to be far to the right. It now says that any parent that tries to keep the child from attending such classes will be charged with assisting truancy. And they're citing Kamala Harris as precedent for locking up all those people in the Bay Area, that's San Francisco, Oakland, and Berkeley, and Richmond, for the truancies of their children. So it's gotten a bit far out of hand.
So basically, like, parents have no say in how their kids are being taught. I mean,
well, yeah, but the parents need to just tell them to go to hell. That's not going to happen. I mean, it is controlled by a school board, and I understand, and this is what I'm saying about assuming the methodology of the Nazis. You always were able to opt out if you didn't want your children, for whatever reason, attending a sex education class. Mm-hmm. But this one, because it's the opposite thing, they say it's necessary to promote peaceful existence in the population and in public and in society. You have to learn the gay methodology, which, you know, to me, that's way far out. I saw a bootleg DVD that they had. Well, it wasn't bootleg. A teacher got a copy and gave it to some parents because she was concerned. And it says in there, and it's an animation, my big brother likes to dance. He has fun. My big brother likes to dress up like a girl. He has fun. My big brother likes to dress up like a girl and go to nightclubs and dance, and he has fun. He also likes to fool other boys into thinking he's a girl. Now, that'll get somebody killed, but they're showing this to third grade students.
Mm. Wow, that's insane. So you got people in so-called authority positions abusing their power, it seems, and being bullies, try to force this on people's kids.
Yes. And see, the kids, you know, I mean, whether you're black or white, you were subject to the influence of Chinese, African, South American. You were subject to the influence of movies. And all over the world, for a long time, young males and females guided what they did based on what they saw in the movies. Mm. And now they're showing movies that have a lifestyle like that to kids starting in early elementary school, going all the way through high school. So that's a 9-10 year period they'll be looking at this stuff.
Wow.
And it's supposed to make it all right, you know, but that's not what is appropriate. It's like the rainbow is interesting. You know, they used to say there's a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Well, with this one, there's nothing but oblivion, because Mother Nature just is hanging out there grinning and saying, you know, I'm Mother Nature, but I sure as hell can be a bitch. And what I might deliver is extinction. Mm-hmm. Now, again, it's their right to do whatever in the hell they want to do, but it's our right to say, no, you can't teach this to our children. And since you don't have children unless you're sneaking, you know, or you buy, is not a problem you seem to worry about. So it's not above what they comment. Well, let me strike that and go back. They're using black people as kind of guinea pigs. Last Christmas before last, I forget which, Macy's had some commercials, and they showed three children in these stylish pajamas, all identical, and a man and a woman, and obviously it's supposed to be a happy family. Mm-hmm. They showed another man and a woman, white in the first instance, with 2 children. They're all 4 of them a family in these same pajamas. And then they showed a black man and a white man, obviously a gay couple with 3 kids of different races, all in these pajamas. And then they showed a single black woman with 4 or 5 kids in these pajamas, and another single black woman with 3 kids in these pajamas. So in other words, there was no depiction of a black family in there. There is one that you've seen on Twitter. It's about baby in the bath that they're showing in elementary schools, and it's a cute little first, second grade thing or kindergarten thing. And there's a little baby, and his mom and dad are shampooing, or her mom and dad are shampooing its hair, right? Mm-hmm. And then you have the baby sitting there splashing, and another baby slides into the bathtub, and the little ditty's going along, baby in the bath. And this time, there is a black male with another black male, and they are washing this baby's hair. 2 men, gay. And then they've got a black girl in the bathtub now, and then there's a black female and another black female. In other words, a black lesbian couple washing the baby's hair. And then they've got a Hispanic guy who's washing this kid's hair all by himself. In other words, they got the Spanish guy being the effective male head of household single parent, which is a conscientious thing. They've got white family being a family, and then they got a gay black couple and a lesbian black couple. See, that's just, you see what they're doing in terms of the imagery? Mm-hmm. Now, I know in terms of imagery, when I was coming up in the 60s, black people had a real problem. They were ashamed of themselves. They have become that way again. But we kind of invented I'm black and I'm proud. Not James Brown, but people did. Just James Brown just co-opted it when he came out with Papa's Got a Brand New Bag after doing that Rocky movie with Stallone in the late 60s. But it was I'm black and I'm proud, and we got to saying, okay, be proud of what you are, not ashamed, even though all of the imagery that we got out there was white-oriented, except for very, very few things. So nowadays you see the gay crowd pushing gung-ho to push their agenda, but yet they're pushing the tranny thing, and basically the tranny thing is a supersized edition of what black folks had wrong with them up until the late 60s, which was shame. They are glorified being so ashamed of what they are and so full of self-hate that they want to switch genders. Mm. And it's like, goodness, you're really screwed up. That's as bad as that sick, dead thing, Michael Jackson, who was so ashamed of being black, he did so much surgery on himself, or had it done on himself, that he wound up getting his necrotic nose amputated and wound up looking like a Pokemon cartoon figure.
Judge, you've been consistent.
Got his melanin cells destroyed by laser.
One thing, Judge, you have been consistent in the Michael Jackson situation. I got to give you a props on that. You have not changed your tune. People try to bully you online. People try to make you submit to their point of view. You've been consistent on that Michael Jackson point.
Yeah, it's sickness. Well, see, they pushed Michael Jackson as an early thing. So for all of those years, they had all of these young male blacks running around trying to act like a sissy rather than act like a man. Mm. And you got their mothers coming to these Michael Jackson movies before and after he croaked. And they had their sons with flooding high tight pants and white socks and one glove on, trying to look like Michael Jackson, and then see if their sons had been turned over to Michael Jackson, he would have been doing that pedophile stuff on. Oh, Michael Jackson's not a pedophile. They couldn't prove it in court. Yeah, but right after he got loose on that first case, he's out there under a black umbrella in the rain talking about he doesn't see anything wrong with being naked in a bed with a 10-year-old boy who he's not related to trying to show love. So that's pedophilia.
Let's say for the I wasn't there, but is that not the agenda? What they pushing with this man boy love stuff? Like they trying to make pedophilia normal now.
Yeah, they are. That's HR. What used to be HR 2282, which is up right now. They're trying to get that passed, and the language they're trying to include in that is descriptive is exactly the same as I would get back on a psychiatric report after I had sent convicted child molester or convicted child rapist over for an evaluation before I sentenced them. So the same language the shrinks would use to describe this sicko who's raped a child or molested a child, they would take that, they want to put that same language in as a protected class. And then that's part of that gay agenda of 1972, which is what? That's 47 years old, where they had recommended state action, either number 5 or number 7, which is remove age as a factor in sexual consent. That's pedophilia. A lot of the people that are supporters of LGBT don't even know that, but LGBT and pedophiles have been running along for a long time with that NAMBLA, North American Man-Boy Love Association, which the FBI drove underground.
What about institution older than that one? What about like the Boy Scouts of America or the Catholic Church? I mean, why hasn't they been disbanded?
The Boy Scouts of America, considering its ubiquity, it was in Britain, Australia, New Zealand, the United States, Canada, and other English-speaking places around the world. If you're talking about going on a 100-year period, you're going to have, of course, some examples of some sickos who have snuck in. That wasn't widespread. But some years ago, the Boy Scouts really went off the deep end when they started saying it's all right to have openly gay scoutmasters. Like, what time is that? That invites the pedophiles in. And then they switched up just a couple of years ago, so now girls can be Boy Scouts. So, like, what gives here? You have Girl Scouts, you have Brownies, you have Campfire Girls, and now they got to invade and take over Boy Scouting? And see, I was a Scoutmaster for 15 years. And there's no way in hell that a Scoutmaster male that you need to get these boys properly acculturated and socialized. There's no way he needs to be out in the wilderness for a week by himself with a bunch of little girls in this group with the boys. That is a recipe for a disaster. But see, what they've done is they have toned down what the boys do, so they got it now instead of what the boys used to do is what the girls do in the Girl Scouts and Campfire Girls, and that just promotes the sissification of the masculine population. And then it's you want to teach boys certain things that you don't need girls around because it's not pro-girls. It's not anti them, but it's, you know, the girls have their little classes where they get taught about when they get on their menses and everything, and they exclude the boys, and the boys wonder what they're talking about. But, you know, you can't have a class for the boys, or you can't have a program for the boys. So it's sick. Catholic Church, I mean, if you go to a Renaissance revival thing, or you go to an art museum and you see all of the classic paintings by Leonardo da Vinci and not Machiavelli.
Michelangelo?
Michelangelo, yeah. And you see the Sistine Chapel.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in these Catholic churches, for a long time, they didn't have the pews like you see now.
Mm-hmm.
The rich folk brought in stools, and what they had was straw on the floor. People would sit on the floor. But if you can imagine the candlelight flickering after dark, and you're looking up at a ceiling, and you're looking down, and you see some monks with their robes laying flat on their backs, with the robes flipped up, looking at the light flickering off of these little naked cherubs and everything up there, and all these boys with these gay poses that they have in this Renaissance artwork.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bunch of monks jacking off or masturbating while they're looking at these pictures and these paintings with the light flickering off of them.
Wow.
That's pornography. It dawned on me. I was in the New York Museum of Art,
mm-hmm.
and my now ex-wife was looking around, and I was sitting there in the Renaissance section. I said, oh, man, I get it now. This is pornography.
Mm.
This is homosexual, pedophilic pornography. Have you ever noticed how these paintings have all these little naked boys with their penises out,
yeah,
fluttering around, as part of the painting?
Mm-hmm.
See, that's what that was. Or at least that's my deduction.
I don't know you too far off. I mean, you look at the early days of the church. I mean, they said they were having orgies up in the church, the nuns and the priests. And I don't think you're too far off from what you're saying. I can see you making that deduction.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the paintings, it always dawned on, it always struck me, so why they got all these naked children in these pictures?
Yeah, it's interesting. And I guess you always had erotic art.
There, and it dawned on me, that's why they got all those naked boys up in there. This is pedophilic pornography.
Mm. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean...
Next time you look at some of Michelangelo or Leonardo da Vinci's or all of the famous Renaissance painters, look at some of their artwork. Look at all of these naked little boy cherubs they've got up in there. Or even the one Michelangelo did where they've got God up there touching Adam and Adam's dick is hanging out, or a little bitty dick,
Right.
stuck out.
Well, Joe, let me ask you, is homosexuality a gateway to pedophilia?
Most of the bad pedophilia is gay.
Okay.
There is heterosexual pedophilia where old men deal with female children. But the worst exemplars are where you've got grown males dealing with male children. I think that's more prevalent if I go by what I wound up having to sentence.
And how will you define a pedophile? Is a person a pedophile if they have sex with a younger female who can menstruate, like this menstrual cycle? Did that make you a pedophile?
I don't know if it's got anything to do with menstruals. Well, you're talking about who's old enough to have.
Yeah.
In other words, she's sexually mature. Well,
right.
I remember back in January 1991, this guy had been convicted.
Mm-hmm.
A nurse turned him in. Juvenile court didn't. But it should, because what happened is the birth certificate showed that the girl who was 2 or 3 weeks shy of her 13th birthday gave birth to a child and named this guy as the daddy, and he came down and signed the birth certificate. So he's 28 years old getting a 12-year-old pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm going off on it. So testifying in his behalf is the mother of the child. And she sits up there and said, my friend girls were getting all on my case, Your Honor, because I had a grown woman at my house who wasn't getting a check. So I invited this guy, the defendant, to go stay over at my house so he could get my daughter pregnant so we could get another check in the house. So by the time she got through, I had her placed under arrest for aiding and abetting especially aggravated rape. And I set a $500,000 bond on her. I'm going to lose my children. Good. And I had my clerk call the Department of Human Services, and I instructed them to go see about retrieving these children. Wow. They needed to be placed in a foster home. Wow. And he was up there crying with snot running out his nose, really nasty. I had to bring in the janitorial staff to clean up the mess. He was crying about what did he do wrong. His mother wasn't but 12 when she had his big brother and 14 when she had him, so what did he do wrong? It's like sick. That was in our community.
Why I had a relative, like, I found it interesting. I mean, I had a relative who was he was 28 when he married his wife, who was 14 at the time, and they're still together. He's in his 90s, she's in her 70s. Do you think there's like a different time, and how do you like look at it?
No, that's still sick.
Okay.
Sorry about talking to your relative.
I'm curious. I'm just curious.
That somebody 90 could be my big brother, you know? I'm in my 70s, so you're talking about 90, you know, that's like a friend's big brother now, if he's still breathing.
Yeah, he's still around, but he's still married, but I mean, I just thought that was interesting.
I know. What are you doing marrying a 14-year-old? What's wrong with you that you can't get a grown woman?
That's a good
Something's wrong.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for talking about your kin, but that's...
you don't need to apologize. I just want to get your point of view on that. Cause I just think you hear stories like that all the time. Though I had a friend...
I know it, but it's sick.